Your business operates, every business, not just interior design businesses, operates on a lag. What you are doing today, that's creating your next season. So if you stop showing up and marketing and investing and putting yourself out there now, you are going to feel the indicator of that a few months from now.
All right. I'm Rebecca Hay, and I've built a successful interior design business by trial and error, podcasts, online courses, and so many freaking books. Over the last decade, I've grown from an insecure student to having false starts to careers, and now I'm finally in the place where I want to be. Throughout my journey, it's been pretty obvious that I'm passionate about business and helping other entrepreneurs do the same. Each week, I'll share tangible takeaways from my own experience and the experiences of other badass women to help you build your confidence and change your business.
Hey, it's Rebecca, and you are listening to Resilient by Design. Today, I want to talk about something that I see come up again and again and again with interior designers. And if I'm being honest, I have been here too, but it basically goes something like this. Oh my gosh, I don't know where to market my business. Or I know I need to be marketing. Do I need to be everywhere? Do I need to be on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, you name it? Do I need to hire a publicist? Or I hear designers say things like, I need to show up more, I know, but I just don't feel like it, or I don't know what to say. So here's the reality. When we feel like this, for whatever reason, and we don't spend time investing in our marketing, here's what happens. Nothing. Nothing happens. When you stay quiet, or you sort of wait until a time when you have more time, or a time where you feel more confident, or you feel more ready, that means no new projects are materializing. So meanwhile, you're busy running projects, your pipeline starts to dry up, which means you don't have a project slated for a few months from now. And this is totally common and totally normal, but I really want to say this so that it really lands. Your business operates, every business, not just interior design businesses, operates on a lag. What you are doing today, that's creating your next season. So if you stop showing up and marketing and investing and putting yourself out there now, you are going to feel the indicator of that a few months from now. Maybe it's 3 months, maybe it's 6 months. Your business today is a lagging indicator of the activities that you did or you invested in 3 to 6 months ago. I just want to let that land with you for 1 second, because here's what I see happen a lot with interior designers, and this was definitely my situation for a long time, is it's feast or famine. The work ebbs and flows. And so when you're really busy, you're not thinking about marketing. You're not putting yourself out there. You're not asking for work on Instagram. You're not reaching out to referrals or past clients. You're busy in it doing the work. And then all of a sudden, the work starts to wrap up. It gets a little quiet and you think, oh, shoot, where's my next project coming from? I got to do some marketing. I got to do this thing. I got to ask Rebecca, what should I do? Where do I do it? What should I say? I'm doing all this outreach, and you're going because you haven't been going for the last 3 to 6 plus months. And so this is something that I teach inside Designer's Room. Inside Designer's Room, the foundation of that program is based on what I call the 4 pillars of a predictable business. So that's the delivery, your process and how you deliver your projects. The second is your leads and your marketing. So bringing in those predictable clients. Then your income, your pricing, and your profitability. Getting predictable profit in your business is so important. And then the capacity, making sure that you have the time to serve your clients and grow your business. That comes down to leadership, growing your team, and managing your own calendar. And all 4 of those pillars, they hold your business up no different than a table is held up by 4 legs. If one leg of that table is weak, then the whole thing's going to wobble. And what I'm seeing right now is a lot of designers who are working on one leg and ignoring the other 3. And unfortunately, that's just not how you are going to build a predictable, strong business. And it's good to focus in on your process and refine how you're delivering your projects, but then you also need to consider your pricing. Maybe you need to consider hiring and then marketing. Or, as I did for many years, I went all in on marketing. I was like YouTubing, Instagramming, speaking at home shows, getting featured in publications. I was putting all my energy into marketing, just that one pillar, and ignoring the other three. Ultimately, you need all four pillars in place. They're not always going to be equally as strong at all times, but you need to have them in place in order to build a strong, dependable business. Because a calm, predictable business is built when you are consistent. And when we talk about marketing, this is the one area I see designers leave the most is marketing. It's like we do it in spurts. I think designers are consistently working on their pricing, truthfully, because it's constantly an issue or constantly something that comes up when you get a new project. I also think designers are constantly working on trying to figure out their capacity. But the one thing I know most of us are not doing all the time consistently is marketing. So here's the good news. This is not a strategy problem. This is totally an overthinking problem. We tell ourselves, I need to be original. I need to say something different, or I need to stand out. What makes me totally unique? Or I need to get it perfect before I'll post. Or I don't even really know my voice. I need to find my voice first. Or my hair and makeup's not quite right. Or fill in the blank. And because of that, we don't start. But your pipeline, those clients that want to be in your realm, that want you to work on their project, they don't care if your content is perfect. Whether or not you're visible matters. Okay, let me share a story with you. There was a time in my business, once I started to get busy, after I'd put in all the efforts in the marketing, I was working with a publicist. I was spending quite a bit of money and time every month focused on building my YouTube channel, going and speaking on stages, writing editorials for various publications. And I started to bring in the work. And so I decided, I don't need a publicist anymore. I'm tired of doing the YouTube. Like, things are rocking and a rolling. I can put my foot on the gas. And while, yes, pulling back was probably a good idea for me because I was going a little far in the one direction, what happened was we built the team, we had busy projects on the go, and we were fully booked. We had people waiting for us to end a project or to get to that date where we said we would start with them. We had projects on the go. Everything looked really good from the outside. We looked super busy, and we were starting to do really great work. With every project, we were getting a little bit higher level. But behind the scenes, I had completely stopped showing up. I was no longer the one posting. I was trying to outsource it and hire someone to post on Instagram for me. I went through multiple people. I wasn't really sharing what was going on behind the scenes. I didn't have that YouTube anymore. I was certainly not pitching myself for magazines. I was not reaching out to past clients or really nurturing them. I wasn't looking for those referrals. I was too busy to go to networking events. And I kept telling myself, I've made it. I don't need it anymore. You know what? I'll do more of that when I have the time. Or I'll do it when I know exactly what the next direction is for the business. Or, I'll do it properly later. This person posting on my behalf, it's good enough. But then what happened is months went by and slowly things started to feel a little too quiet. Meaning that we weren't getting as many inquiries. Even though I was in the magazine feature, right? Or I was, on Instagram, but really not truly in my most authentic self. There were longer gaps between the conversations that I was having, those discovery calls with potential clients. And I also started to panic because I had a team. So I would go to my team and say, oh, guys, we got to cut back our hours. Oh, I don't have that many. And it was this feast or famine panic mode. And then I finally remember sitting in a workshop one day and it hit me. I was like, oh, I did this. I took my foot off the gas at the marketing. Maybe it was a little pedal to the metal too much, but I completely released it, put full foot on the brake. And I realized that the projects that I was getting were a direct reflection to me being out there and the marketing I was doing. And that was the lag. Right? I was so in it. And let's be honest, it had nothing to do with my talent. If anything, I was doing the best projects I'd ever done. And it had nothing to do with my process. We had such a freaking ironed out process. We had a strong team. It had nothing to do with the pricing. I felt very confident in my pricing at that point. We'd raised our rates. People were paying them. I knew how I calculated it. I knew how to communicate it. People just weren't knocking on the door. They couldn't hire me because they didn't know I existed as much as I did before. And they just weren't seeing me in whatever place that they would normally want to see me. And so I made a decision that I needed to start showing up a little bit more, but this time around to be more intentional with my marketing, to talk about the types of projects. I updated my website to reflect really the direction that I wanted to go, the design aesthetic that I wanted. If you look at my website today, RebeccaHayDesigns.com, you will see, I hope, a relatively cohesive aesthetic with the projects. I got a lot more intentional. I took the Instagram back. I was like, you know what? I'm going to stop just paying someone blindly and letting them roll with whatever. I'm going to actually pay attention to what I'm posting. Post less, but post better. I'm going to put together a system for emailing past clients. Let's look at where did our best projects come from? And can we go back to those people and nurture those relationships? I started to pay a lot more attention. And honestly, it wasn't perfect and nothing happened overnight because these things take time to build momentum. If you take your foot off the gas in any shape or fashion, you will feel it down the road. And so things started to shift for me. Conversations came back. The inquiries picked up. I started getting even better fit clients. And it wasn't because I had better work out there. It was because I was out there. And I don't mean you have to go to every event and do every stage talk. And I absolutely do not recommend that because I have done that and it causes burnout and it also causes a dilution of your message. The first thing you need to do is understand who do you want to attract because the actions you take will be different for different types of clients. The places you need to be, the rooms you need to be in will be different. So instead of asking, what should I post? Or how do I stand out? I want you to ask, what does my client need to understand before they hire me? And what might be some of their objections? What might be one of the reasons that they hold back? How can I talk about that? Who is my client really? And what can I do on a consistent basis? Not just once things slow down. Because your marketing also, this is something I feel very strongly about. It took me a real long time to figure this out. We as designers, we love our social media. We love our Instagram. And we are so good at checking out what the competition is doing. So much so that I know many designers who've had to block their own access from Instagram because they go down a negative spiral, or you could call it a rabbit hole. I tried to combine those two, didn't really work out. Rabbit spiral hole. Woo, Rebecca, have another coffee. Your marketing is not about impressing other designers. And this is where I think a lot of designers miss the mark. We are trying to post to show how good we are, how impressive our design is. But actually, a new potential client, yeah, they want to see how good our design is, but they want to understand us, our process. What appeals to an interior designer is not the same as what is going to attract an interior design client. And I know you know this, but as creatives, we can't help but look at the beauty and be obsessed over perfection and see Studio McGee and think, oh my God, it's so beautiful. Or look at whoever, fill in the blank and think, oh, it's so this or that. Or most of the time we're comparing ourselves to influencers. I will say Studio McGee is not an influencer. She's a business owner, but most of the time we are comparing ourselves to influencers who actually make their money by creating content. Let me just repeat that again. You are comparing yourself, a business owner who makes money by delivering a service. You're comparing yourself to someone who has a completely different business model. And this really became apparent to me when I went to an event. My friend Lisa Canning, years ago, she's a designer turned kind of influencer turned Catholic coach mom. She's like 11 million children. Love Lisa. But she had a book launch and she invited myself and 10 other influencers, I'm using air quotes, business influencers, to this beautiful lunch at her home. And it was it was so well done. And Lisa, if you're ever listening to this episode, thank you. I really appreciated that. And I sat down at the table and started talking to these women. I didn't know any of them. A couple of them I had maybe met, or not met, but I knew of them from being online. There was maybe one other designer there, but it became really apparent to me that all these women at this table, not to knock what they did, but I felt like, wait a minute, I'm the only person here who actually makes a living delivering a service. Everybody else there was making a living by posting content online. And I realized there is a major distinction, because the time that you put into creating content, if you don't have the capacity to do that, that will pull you away from your business. And so when you do create content online and an email, think about your client. Don't compare yourself to another designer or influencer. You want to prepare your client to trust you. You want to get them to understand your process. You want them to see your value and be ready to invest. And if your content is doing that, it's working. If your emails are doing that, it's working. When you speak on a stage, when you go talk at a dinner party, if you do that, your message will be clear. So if you are stuck and you're like, okay, but what do I do, Rebecca? I want you to start here. There's 3 simple buckets. 1, what clients misunderstand. This is for content. So if you are looking to create some content and you want to get it out into the world, here are 3 areas that you can create content around, that any business owner can create content around, that will resonate with your client. The first one is, what do your clients misunderstand? What are myths? What are mistakes? What are things that clients believe about a designer and what they do but isn't really true? What do they misunderstand about budgets, maybe timelines, maybe what a designer actually does versus an architect versus a contractor? What does design actually include? That's one area, because a lot of the time there is misinformation. Number 2, this is the fun part. What happens behind the scenes? This was a big one for me. I loved sharing this. Trade day. How do you run a trade day? What is it? Your process. Sourcing. What does that look like? Take them to the showrooms. Problem solving. Here's an issue that showed up on site. Here's what we're doing. I can tell you, when I had my YouTube channel, I did a lot of behind the scenes, and I had a client who hired me once and said they hired me because they followed, there was a certain project I had posted a whole series on Instagram. They're like, I followed that project and you shared the shit that went wrong and then how you fixed it. And they loved that I didn't sugarcoat it. And I was real about real renos. Things are going to happen. It was how you respond. So what can you do to share about what's happening behind the scenes? Also, just even to tease really exciting things that are coming up. I've seen some designers do this beautifully in their newsletters. You can do a monthly newsletter. You can do a quarterly newsletter. It lets people know, especially if your client is not living on Instagram. An email is a really great way to get in front of them, but it lets people know that you're busy and you've got really great things on the go. And then number 3, what do you feel strongly about? What's your core values? What's your mission? We have a designer inside Designer's Room who is leaning into healthy home. And we did a hot seat with her the other day inside Designer's Room where she was sharing, okay, I was doing this and now I want to move more into helping homeowners build healthy homes that will not cause them to get sick. And she shared her personal story of how her home affected her health and how you can really mitigate that. And she really wants that to be a huge part of her message. And so for me, she's like, what do I do? How do I let people know that's, what I do? And I just said, you can just start talking about it, like all the time, everywhere you go. And maybe that's not it for you, but it could be why your process matters, maybe why rushing timelines doesn't work, or maybe it's why you're into sustainability. Maybe you believe very strongly about, homes for families. Maybe you feel strongly about coastal design. I don't know, I'm making that up. That is your content to decide. You don't need 100 ideas. Those 3 buckets, if you just keep repeating them, you will see the traction. And you need to be consistently out there spreading the word about your work, but then also asking for the sale. And I'm going to say this very gently. If you are afraid to say, call me, we're taking on projects, if you're afraid to ask for the work, it's because you think it sounds either salesy or desperate, but it doesn't. If you don't tell people that you are available to work, they don't know that you are. And I'm telling you this from experience. I once had someone come to me. I did a consultation and then they weren't quite ready to sort of pull the trigger. And months passed and I posted on my stories in an effort to drum up some marketing, I said in my stories, it wasn't really true. I was actually like desperate for work. I said, we have openings to take on new projects this fall. If you were looking to start like a home renovation or decor, like reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you. And this woman, who is someone I went to university with her, and we had done the consultation, she sent me a DM or an email, and she said, Rebecca, I just wanted to let you know we would love to have you back. We're ready to go. I saw you made that post on Instagram because I know that you're so busy, and it always looks like you're so busy from everything you post. But when you said you were ready to take on projects, I said to my husband, oh my God, she'll probably have capacity for us. Don't underestimate how you show up and how it may come across to clients. Make sure you are telling people that you are open for the business. And you just need to reconnect with visibility and understand that it is something that needs to happen all the time, because it's not about being perfect. It's about being present and showing up. And this is why I created Designer's Room. We don't just focus on one pillar. We build all four together. You have an incredible process. You also need pricing. You've got, a strong plan to hire. You also need marketing. Because if your pipeline is empty, none of it matters. Visibility is not optional and is not cyclical, and it should not be feast or famine. It is truly the engine that drives your business. So here's what I want you to do after this episode. Pick one thing that your clients need to understand, tie it to your perspective, and share it. Even if it's not perfect, even if it feels repetitive, even if it feels simple, just do it, because consistency will compound and you will start to build confidence. And the designers who win are not the most original. They are the most consistent. The businesses that thrive are based on continually showing up and doing the thing. They show up again and again until finally the right client is right there at the right moment and sees them. So if this is something that you struggle with, you are not alone. But if you know that visibility is something that you haven't necessarily been spending a lot of time on, this is exactly the work we do inside Designer's Room. We don't just talk about marketing, we actually help you implement it. In fact, in May, we are doing a marketing sprint to help build consistency for our members. It's really fun. If you're interested at all, join my free live workshop. It's called the Predictability Framework. I'll walk you through in more detail what these 4 pillars are. We host them every month. You can find out at the link in bio to find out when the next one will be, and you can learn a little bit more about Designer's Room to see if it's the right fit for you. All right. I hope I gave you a little kick in the butt today. I'll see you soon.